Hi everyone, and welcome to week 15 tutor video, the floating egg. And this week we will be, CC Livermore Tutors, we're going to be in room 4. There will be enough for basically 4 stations of a fresh egg or a freshwater egg and a saltwater egg. So pair your students up so they work in a team. And let's go through what we're doing. So we are going to be talking about buoyancy and density of liquids. One of the things that I like to do is to connect something the students don't know with something the students do know. For instance, density of liquids or buoyancy, that might be a word they're not familiar with or really can't define. But to give them a visual, how difficult is it to stir water? It's pretty easy. And how difficult is it to stir honey? Two liquids with different densities, and that might give them an idea of 1 cup of water and 1 cup of honey. It's the same, it's both 1 cup, but it's different density. Remind them about week 13, where we had water and rubbing alcohol, and those were 2 different densities, and 1 cup of water and 1 cup of rubbing alcohol combined in such a way that the rubbing alcohol fit between the spaces. So we want to remind them of that. Excuse me. Let's go through the experiment. Here are our supplies. You guys will actually have a jug of water. I just didn't have it handy. So we're going to fill up each mason jar to the 1 cup line, and if you remember, there's the markings on the side of the mason jar, so you can just pour in 1 cup of water into each container for each student. You'll also notice that I have marked on one of the mason jars salt water. That way we know that it's salt water. This experiment originally calls for milk. We're not going to do milk. It just didn't seem to be practical or necessary. Then we're going to add in a cup of water here. So tutors, make sure you look at our tutor sheets for the step-by-step instructions as well as the supplies. Okay, so 1 cup of water into each container. Now we're going to add about 1/3 of a cup of salt, or 1/4 of a cup of salt, into the saltwater container. So make it a generous 1/4 of a cup of salt. We'll probably end up adding more, and stir until it dissolves. It takes a little while. The students should anticipate stirring for at least a minute. Still stirring. Okay, so we can see what it does, but we'll probably end up adding some more salt in there. Actually, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's see what a 1/2 cup does. So when I'm stirring this, now that I've got a 1/2 cup in there, I can actually start feeling it be more difficult to stir than regular water. And it wouldn't be the end of the world if they were to put their spoon in the regular water and give it a twirl, and then back in the salt water, and feel that there's some resistance in there. So let's stick with a 1/2 cup. I'll change the science sheets to reflect that. So we'll do a 1/2 cup into the saltwater jar, stir until dissolved. Now we're going to go ahead and put 1 egg in the fresh water. And you can see how that sinks, and 1 egg in the salt water. And hopefully you can see how that floats. If you're a director on a different campus and you're watching this video, I want to tell you the fresher your eggs are, the more they sink. And so if you bought eggs at the beginning for the tutor meeting and thought to save them, just know that they'll start floating a little bit as the insides of the yolk, or the inside of the egg, shrinks and the air pocket gets bigger. It'll start floating a little bit more in the water. So we're going to make sure on our campus, CC Livermore Tutors, I'll buy the eggs that week to make sure they're pretty fresh, so it really does sink. So let me show you these. So this is sunk. I think you can see it in the video. And this is floating. This is floating right on right on top. So that's what we're looking to do, to get that floating right on top. So half a cup of water, or excuse me, 1 cup of water and a half a cup of salt, I think is a great mixture. Now, is there anything else? You can go through some of the questions on our sheet, but here's the bonus question. We didn't get a chance to do this in the tutor meeting, so I want to do this with you now. The bonus question at the bottom, can you make the egg both sink and float? So knowing what you know now, can you suspend the egg in the middle of the jar? So we have it floating on top of the salt water and sinking under the fresh water. What if we combined that? So we'll take our unhard-boiled eggs and carefully set them aside, because these are raw eggs. And we're going to pour out some of the salt water. I'll have a container there for you guys to do that. Ooh, there's still a lot of salt left at the bottom. Okay. So we'll pour out at least half of the salt water and then put the egg back in. So now it's floating on top of the salt water, and pour the fresh water, aiming to hit the fresh water on top of the egg. That way the fresh water will stay in a layer on top of the salt water if you hit the egg with it. So pouring that in. And you'll see it starting to sink. I don't know what you can see in the video right now. But there we go. Might be, if I move it, it will be too, can you see that? It is definitely suspended in the middle of the glass. So really cool, I think. I think that would be fun for them to see. Also, I have one more thing to show you. It was on my printer. Remember at the meeting I had something that kind of looked like this, a layered density cylinder. I'll have one of those for our students. I'll have one of those for our students and you to talk about on this day. I think it's really a fun thing to see and to show, and the layers are really clear. Just know that if you bump it or stir it, the layers will mix. So just try to keep the students' hands off of it. But hopefully you like this experiment and it'll be fun in your class, and I'll see you on Friday.